Truth is a sequence nature. So with our nation, we have to consider we have to understand Native American rights that no one remembers, and how and why. In other words, what methods enforce this. And we have to understand what did this to other nations too. Right now, every nation's hurting, especially Syria and Palestine. And what we have to do there is put the only way to make negatives into positives as fast as possible. There is to admit it. Get the whole world to make a like a movie, not movie, but I mean in other words, make agreements to make use art to build out of colonial infrastructure and negative value nature progressions. That is causes that were tricked. That every nation was tricked to entertain these infrastructural standards forced by colonization's terror laws. We're forced not to remember in relationship to forced glorifications of our founders in relationship to natures of organized crime that nobody was let to realize, to understand, because of the natures of it was with campuses and and stays beyond it, is connected to the nature of the pattern of crimes with the schools, with the shootings, and with the nature of people in the schools in relationship to that, provoking the psycho nature to come out more because it's being trained. It only with the psychology, the delusion propagating with schools. We don't understand. No one has been taught the language to explain our nation's original legal impositions and terror impositions and those of our founders. And so we've been, and this is in relationship to passions defending forced glorifications of their forced terror and proofs of it. They didn't have free speech, you know. so, so in other words, it's not a game. Make a movie. I'm saying make the education go to it. Like in this country, give me the books, and I'll write a book. I mean, in other words, all the grades up, and then let that own it, the street own it. We don't have people free yet, so how could we be claiming business? We don't have standards right, and we don't have free speech let long enough. So my idea, for example, one movie's never been done. The best movie idea. So we could do it. We field test it first with cartoons, and to fund. In other words, we're going to hand the people the tools to play the game. We're going to start giving people value, and we're going to have to let the landscape own it. And there's so many ways that at once, when we're the nature of actual unchanging positive, there's a might of a nature beyond us that stays focused here, that causes evolution, and it forces our treatments and our legal standards with the nature revealed wrong. This is what Native Americans are trying to say. See, every nation was forced to share policing, and they're failing to describe this. And when they describe American history, they're making American founders take credit for it in other nations. So nations that have nothing to do with each other, they share teaching their people that American made slavery and things like that. That just carried over from the never unhinged enforced criminal markets positions and shared policing of our landscape that was forced denatured to force this. That's what they did to the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Museum in Rhode Island, okay, in Rhode Island and Connecticut, in the border, in the Mohegan Sun, and the phenomenon of other tribes that too need this game, and other nations at once. None of us want to be under bombs. None of us. And these leaders are all extorted too. And they don't want that. and it's because everyone's an opinion nature, picking names and not facts. And when they do pick the facts, we're not in free speech long enough, and we're with compromised justice systems, demonstrably every single nation since founding. That's why they don't give anybody the right language to explain um, the terror laws, like slavery and serious things like that, like witch trials. They blame it on drugs, and they call that high. They teach the kids that it gets high. It doesn't get people high. There's a gets people addicted because they get bored because they get isolated. You never get bored if you understand on ratiocination. If you understand what is actively in demonstration to us through what is inherent to all temporary value natures, even the consciousness. What is inherent to consciousness is of unchanging value. We are temporary and we are forever nature. That is undebatable. The extent of it is debatable, but they're not in the extent of it revealed with science. We have inter-science obfuscations of reality, of proper linguistic treatments of the facts and of morality and of actual positive. We have ill statutes, and we have language facilitative to movements that are self-defeating and sabotaging to the surface values of the Constitution, like the freedom of religion, with the blind dictates that there's Islamic extremism, and that's all they speak about is ISIS on TV. I don't support any terror group, and Islam doesn't support it. Islam values what they in English translations. Islam values unbelievers more than people that pretend to be Islam and do and all ways, but are not. And the reason the reason it's presented like that in sequence, the Quran, is because the messengers of religion didn't have control over our education. It was already corrupt. And the legal natures with international business enforced internation collusions unwillingly with shared policings and things like that, and with no means to describe the actual nature of criminally legalized pathologies behind it, not even on the record, and methodically and consciously that way, knowing that we perpetually blame it on things like greed and like money and on physical delusions, not understanding and as evidence fabrication natures, and as her conviction natures, and in relationship to what maintains us to all areas. So if we can admit our own, this is the same enemy we share. Every single nation, every leader, and every street, every hurt neighborhood up, distinctly, but from the same ends. And this is what everyone only has been taught to call the white man, and it's with the slavery of everybody. I'm what I know I am is Italian and Irish and a little bit French. I don't know what else I am, but Native American rights are human rights, and to understand the truth is a sequence nature, and to understand what actually, and to understand between correlating lies still told and how we can understand more, and we have to understand this is the enemy of other nations first. In other words, even though it was long ago, and we have to understand how through education and through mistreatments of the facts, and understand how through healthcare in uncharged ways, but known and recorded through time, since before our founding, and since with slavery in the North, insidiously tied to narratives with the Underground Railroad, and with the original methods in minds behind and an organization behind those tactics that put those criminal laws in place in the first place to divide everybody. You know, no one wanted that sick stuff. Excuse my language. No one wanted those six things, those six laws, colonization, and no one properly explained this to our nation and to others. And because our nations share geopolitical, educational, interscience obfuscations of themselves, the sciences, when truly free, when honesty is really ratiocinate, the sciences are to one act. It's common sense. And so, in other words, we have all these people, and so, for example, we have a criminal enterprise, a nature of organized crime that we have to discuss, and there are proofs that the messengers of religions were the ones who defended our science for us to reveal. In other words, when Jesus says, "I am the Alpha and I am the Omega," he was saying this in relationship to the damage control from what we already had control of the campuses, the Campus Marcius. It already was criminally re-engineered. What originally engineered it was not Roman. It was Etruscan Roman. What is that? It was what was revealed by what was internation. In other words, Italy's right there in that seaport area with Syria and with Greece and everybody needs it. You know, then we organize that. We organize all our efforts to realize together that we have a common enemy. And business was never free in any nation. And we have standards that are ill. And through campuses and how time has been wasted. And how we're being forced not to let independent nature of free speech and of positive value of identities. And how that's measured. People entertaining that. With convictions forcing speech to fight about non-facts and forcing both candidates to do this. So I'm saying there's only one not peaceful. Peaceful is the wrong word. There's only one positive, unchanging. There's only one point that hurts not one. And we should employ this as a religious method, as a nation together, not for senses, but for the facts that reveal we're not free, and reveal that no one has found the words to describe it, because we're Oz. What relationship, what to do with it? Because there's so many jobs and ways we're invested to the pathology of infrastructural standards and school standards, of campus standards as is, of interscience, of business as is. It's broke. Every single nation. Humanity's a negative value nature progression that has been leaving, forcing Earth value to leave since ancient times. And that's what the bombs are proof. You know what I'm saying? There's so many proofs. There's the species that go extinct. There's proof. It's not survival of the fittest. These are linguistic games in relationship to natures of organized crime with the language of the law that the branches of our nations were not capable of understanding, and not by accident. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police. I'm not a criminal. This is in relationship to what. There's proofs that religions are talking about the predicate act. That the Old Testament is about the predicate act, and that, for example, the sciences work together, and English is revealed to teach this. So Adam is the subject, and Eve is the verb. as the predicate, and then after taking the apple or the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because only one main verb could be a only one verb could be a main verb in an independent clause, as the identity of positive nature, value nature, only one at a time. So when a main verb is when a verb is used inside of a clause or a sentence, um, and it's not used as a main verb, then it's used as a participle nature or as an infinitive nature. And this is more properly how English should be presented. It's revealed to teach about nature. So we're going to understand, and this is also in relationship to damage control that the Quran did too, in relationship to the criminal engineering of geopolitical human education. Differentially, to have the nations blaming it on each other, knowing that nations would be defending pseudo identities and exploiting ancient revelations that understood about identities. Value T is actually the other value I. There's two I's in the English language. The bottom of the capital T is an invisible line. This is one value of diffusion. It's three values of diffusion. One has positive value. This is how the English language is revealed to teach ancient sciences together. There's only one space, nature, positive identity. And this is also with cipher that we know that value al is the definite article in Arabic. In other words, if I say Malik, that means king. If I said Al Malik, it means the king. The is the only definite article in English. Value A, and value an, these are the indefinite articles in English. And this is in relationship to unchanging positive space nature. We are all space nature. And the nature of consciousness has an unchanging nature relationship in relationship to grammar. That's why it works the way it does, because we're in nature the way we are, and this is a perfect measurement of it. And this is how the sciences actively together revealed English, and they had no criminal persuasions. They had no internation criminal persuasions, especially legalized criminal persuasions. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but we can use correlation. And this is what religion is about. It's about free speech, not being let, and about predatory courts, and about how and why we have evidence fabrication natures or conviction natures, and have mass indifference to mass evil. This is not natural humanity's nature. This is in relationship to humanity as criminal insidiousness natures, only realized in relationship to educational corruption since ancient times that there are proofs of. For example, there are proofs of criminal insidiousness narratives being glorified, again, not only with American history, but with ancient history and with religious history. They forced this industry predatory, for example, with physical delusions, for example, regarding hadiths and the length of hadiths. These were ancient terms used by pantheism. So demonstrably, Jesus is talking about what he's preserved, what he helped preserve, and which is still self-obfuscating with multi-front with the nature of the other sciences, and with the nature of the guides with that, with the common shared guide with the term of education. So regarding, we should make a cartoon to field test this, for example. making the devil be an organized crime method, intercultural one, and making an anti-archetypal organized crime. But this is in relationship to um, to legal, criminally legalized organized crime. So we can admit it this way, and we can make value from it. We can own, and we can also make it a gaming system where we can employ people to do different things that they'll want to do, that they'll love. In other words, because we know what people really, really love, because we are them. We are the same nature. But we're not going to go by the standards where they have to pay for everything like this. We're going to change the whole entire human value nature system. Otherwise, it's gone. It's negative value nature progressions we'll never recover from. So we make it, in other words, an anti-criminal enterprise. And then it's like we'll have it where it'll be like a comedy. Like we could hack the computer of the president, and things like that. And in other words, we could teach about the law, and we can teach about the nature of organized crime, and of how criminal enterprises, especially how criminally legalized criminal enterprises, cause negative value nature progressions and cause insidiousness natures in relationship to the people who exploit those criminal enterprises, because they have no idea of how that comes back and why. And we can reveal this because again, you know, I've never been any kind of, I'm not a police officer, I'm not a military form, ain't nothing, but I could use correlation to have insights and to have means into lies that in relationship to what's making everybody so angry with the treatments of politics, and what's holding our leaders' the voices extorted top down and ours bottom up. So I want to explain that, but it's necessary to explain, to give a solution for Syria, because no one has the language, and everyone's invested to positions, forced and entertained, that are pathologically ill. Every single nation defending pseudo identities. There's sick with these weapons, and with no offensive means to try to connect us against that. So we have ill justice systems too. We have to understand with geopolitical prison systems and natures of organized crime again too. Before our founding, these were terror methods with these laws that were designed to be long term, and not, they knew in phases, and we played these phases out. So I want to show that we're broke, but I want to show that we're going to make the streets, the people who need it the most, own it. And we need a press. Like, for example, we could fix New York and Hartford. All we have to do is organize for it. And this is what we're going to do with it religiously. Not inventing a new religion. Understanding proofs that religions are being pseudo maintained. They're being worse than pseudo maintained. They're being self obfuscated with the other sciences. The other sciences are to natures of campuses and of geopolitical educational systems that are predatory. So, and we have not free speech or law, offensive morality breakdowns and mistreatments of facts mistreatments, evidence fabrication problems, and indifferences to it, and worse. So then when it comes to Native American dreams, I want to give them the president, but I want to give it through New York and Hartford, and I want it through the poorest parts of Boston too, and then we're gonna enforce. In other words, then we're gonna have all these jobs because we're gonna work as a gaming system to stack means to come right through business, not as business, but just for just whatever human means we need to change the whole landscape of the world that was tactically denatured, to force these negative value nature progressions, to force them blamed on other things, and to force legal natures only let realized self-defending roles and natures as that evidence fabrication nature self-glorified ill to massive prison incarceration, massive evidence fabrication problems. We have evidence fabrication nations in relationship, for example, in relationship to nuclear weapons. We all agree about this. The nations, they failed us. They never locked down. They played these sides, in these business relationships with their own. They must have forced. They have to have forced silence agreements to shared policing in our nations since original. We know they had original ones, shared policing, enforced markets positions. They denatured the Native American landscape. The Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Museum. We'll see how they denatured their seabeds, natural food sources, water. They probably use pigs too, like pigs. You drop them off like an army. You know what I mean? You cultivate them and then you let them go. They destroyed the Native American lands. They destroyed they burned all kinds of woods, and then everyone has to go on their value nature system, mass farming. You know what I mean? And then we're invested to this. So everyone's invested to playing a hurt evidence fabrication, hurt conviction nature game with ill standards, immoral standards, indifference to nature inherent to consciousness when thinking about humanity in urban context. These are colonial context pathology set up to be blamed on other things. This was it. This was sick too. The Underground Railroad. That was all rhetoric. Where was a counter that stayed? They had the means to stay, means to voice a real what the problems were with American standards and with treatments of humanity. In other words, with those tricked legal games with color and the law. In relationship to multi-front insidiousness with the Underground Railroad too. That wasn't real freedom, and that was, words. You have to deal with real facts, not notions. My father used to always say, remind me, emotions are the parents of illusion. There is one. This is what I reveal. We're not me. By understanding that what I don't understand, what I do, and understanding that we're all space nature, and understanding that space nature itself demonstrably has only one nature of positive identity, and it's unchanging, and it's in demonstration to us of this always, but we have it obfuscated from our realization in so many ways, with physical delusions being forced in relationship to methodical ways of forcing mistreatments of the facts. So we could all work for education too. I mean, for healthcare too. This is because we all share the same positive identity. This is what real high is. What really makes positive value nature. It causes its real positive value nature progressions. Because then we connect with a positive value nature that is the only nature of positive value nature in space. It's of progressive value. So it only forces evolution. This is what science reveals. Real, true science. Ratiocination. Every nation, clap your hands. Chant who understands. We break through sides. We force the correlation. And then I'll rise. Divided business means we'll never make. We'll never reveal the healing this landscape and its waters need too. People don't even understand how they were put underground. Like not even that long ago, and how they were systematically denatured, and how in ages before that too, they were drawn to only realize that stage of it. The Native Americans demonstrably originally they had the whole world. That's what messengers of revelations of the ancients are with science demonstrating. See, but they're being forced to surface value convictions and delusions by the predatory natures of industry with it, and the policing of that, in relationship to phenomena that none of the legal natures of the nations have figured out, that nobody has figured out, and except that this is what there's proofs of it though, so we can observe it together. There are means for this, and this is how we should do it. We should we'll make weaponeia, value at the end of Allah. This is in relationship to a system, a method to teach about correlation of the invisible, but of the discernible, because it's only of all space nature, even though it's greater than us. It's only a semi-nature of its complete nature, of its complete positive, unchanging positive nature, which is value A. And then all temporary space nature is longing to this unchanging positive value nature as value Al. So value Al is not only the definite article of Arabic, but is the definite article of space nature. And all that is not that positive identity coming through temporary value nature, being negative value nature. It is longed away from unchanging positive value nature and overall volume of its own progressive value here. That's why when we're not its own progressive value here, it just forces us as negative value nature somewhere else, Leith of Hades. And then that remains progressively so, Hades. This is how the ancients taught pantheism. It wasn't a multi-god religion. This narrative was orchestrated through human education that was criminally re-engineered to further evidence fabrication methods in a species value nature system captivation method. In other words, having the nations defend pseudo-identities they don't realize are breached, and how, to all areas. And them being the stewards of this, our own stewards, because everyone's only realized the physical delusions in relationship to so many different points with human education, yet uncharged natures of organized crime with original campus roles and geopolitical policing of it, legal nature, terror roles, terror database relationships with colonization. In other words, colonization was not a war against England. Colonization would have already had the kings and queens extorted. You know what I'm saying? They already had the other nations they were warring with extorted. They already had human education extorted. Humanity already was driven into the Dark Ages, even though the Dark Ages came after the time of Jesus Christ. He's the one who did damage control to it. And the messenger of Islam, thank God, he did damage control, ending the Dark Ages, and you know, not just glorifying, you know, helping the cause of Jesus to save English. Algebra is part of algebra is not math. That's a physical delusion. This is what there are proofs of this. This is what science really reveals. Algebra is a metaphysical conjunction to unchanging positive space nature, positive identity, actively. So this actively, that's what we call it. We're going to call it algebraic consciousness. This is probably what the ancients called it, algebraic consciousness. And they probably revealed, which there are proofs to reveal. Psychology delusion propagates. And it does so with and through the nature of our courts. And this is relationship to systematic criminal justice problems and natures of self-reception of positions. I want to thank police and service people, because and we could do this in this cartoon. I understand that. I'll explain that. And, you know, otherwise I give the whole narrative, and everyone could own it. So, and healthcare could own it, and we can make the branches. They could play a game if they want. You know what I'm saying? They could have complete control over an increasing value nature system, and what we do is the whole dictate of the game is to make a criminal enterprise. It's about a criminal enterprise that's a good one, that shows how bad other criminal enterprises are, because it's a narrative about them being extorted through their own systems, the same way that what's juxtaposing them with our branches, evidence fabrication, roles, and natures, and mistreatments of the facts, and forced time and positions, and not let free speech, and then too late with offensive evidence fabrication nature branches. So people can't even make police reports outside of they won't take them in writing because of the nature of a method that stacks criminal acts masked in relationship to against people that come across means to reveal legal nature corruption, which has been through time because of this. Because no one understood means to explain it, and because no one could have free speech outside of courts. This is what religions are about, one-way reports.